So that works. It seemed to work. So hello and welcome. I'm very happy to have you. Just first, from where are you joining us?
Well, thanks so much for hosting me. And I'm actually from Charleston, South Carolina, in the United States. So little behind the clock with you guys. So looking forward to talking with you guys this evening.
Yeah, it looks very sunny at your place. Here it's already dark and cloudy and foggy, and it's very cold. Is it warm at least at your place?
Yeah, it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit here, so it's
Oh
we're
wow.
still getting a little bit of that summer weather.
Okay.
It's
Hey.
not done with us.
So first of all, who are you? Tell us.
Well, so my name's Conor Bender. For those of you who don't know me, a little bit about myself. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran, passionate writer of World War II fiction, and wanted to sit down and talk with you guys about World War II, Battle of Britain, as well as the Ground of Aces, a game that I absolutely love, and kind of just talk through our shared interest in that time period between Ground of Aces and the Essex Curve.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, you wrote me an email and we had a quick chat, and it was the instant connection. So you write a book, or you wrote a book or short novel about the Battle of Britain, and we make this game, and you played Ground of Aces. So that's very cool, and I always think it's interesting to meet people from other arts that share the same interest. So just very quickly. What is book about, or yeah, tell me about your books in general, maybe first.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Essex Curve is the short story that starts off my series, the Clandestine War series, and it's a 10,000 word short story that revolves around one of my main characters in the first book of my series called Jubilee. It revolves around a pilot named Ian Faraday. Ian Faraday is an American pilot who came over to England to serve and defend England against the Nazis. And this is right before the creation of the RAF Eagle squadrons, where he would eventually be integrated into. And the story follows him as he just becomes a pilot, gets integrated into Number 74 Squadron at Hornhill, RAF Hornhill Church, and while he's there, it's essentially it's a steep learning curve for him, and he's got to beat what's known as the Essex curve, which is essentially a bell curve for all pilots, where your first few missions, the survivability is very low, and then it slowly ticks up, and then the longer you're in the mix, the your odds continue to dwindle back down. Hence what the Essex curve is and what they're all trying to beat.
Yeah, I just reread the Essex Curve, the first book, this afternoon, and it's so well written, and you really, if you read it, you really experience the Essex Curve, or you follow this character. I loved, by the way, the part when he shoots out his completely ammo, and in the middle of the battle realizes, oh no, I have no ammo left. Something we really know from the newbies in the air, that they kind of yeah, what is it, the art of shooting down another plane is not to use too
Yep.
much ammo. And then if you imagine some guys shot down three other enemies in one flight, and then you realized how good they must be as a shooter when they can do that. Yeah, fascinating, by the way. I really love it. Very easy to read, and very well done. So what brought you to this topic, and how ended you up writing books about World War II?
I mean, so for me, World War II has always been a time period in space in when it comes to writing that I've been very passionate about. My grandfather served as a sailor in the U.S. Navy in the Pacific during the war. So growing up, I heard a lot of stories from him about that. And then in addition to that, my father was a fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force during the Cold War. So
Oh wow.
mixing all of those things, yeah. So
What
mixing
planes did
that and
he
having that
fly?
historical background. He flew the EF-111 Raven, the electronic warfare aircraft.
Okay.
He was actually stationed in England for 3 years. So that was part of the reason why I've been so fascinated with the RAF. One of the bases that he was stationed at was a RAF base during World War II. He was at RAF Upper Hayford. So because of that, because of being so tied into aviation and World War II, and just having just such a fascination with the Battle of Britain, the largest air war in world history. It's I think to me it's one of the most fascinating engagements in modern era. Like I think it's on par with the Spartans at Thermopylae.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, funny. There is another connection. I also come from a family of a pilot. I mean, my grandfather served in the Swiss Air Force and never, obviously, never had to fight. But that was also a big part why I wanted to make Round of Aces, all to hear all his stories, and that's what drew me into the fascination. One of the reason why I'm so interested in the Battle of Britain and all the stories. Very, very interesting. And can you tell us a little bit about your books, just in general? I mean, you wrote the Essex Curve, the Jubilee, the Vichy Treasury, and the sorry, I cannot spell that.
Wolves of Biscay, all good.
The Wolf of Biscay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I wrote. Yeah, so the series called the Clandestine War series, and the series revolves around essentially just the British Special Operations executive as well, and a myriad of different events that occurred. Excuse me, during the early outs of the war. So the Essex Curve obviously is solely focused on the Royal Air Force and the events occurring around the Battle of Britain. It's a bit of a spin-off because of one of the main characters I had in Jubilee, Ian Faraday, an RAF pilot who gets tied up into Operation Jubilee, also known as the Dieppe Raid, which is what the book's named after. And the reason I wrote the Essex Curve was essentially because that character, one of the very first characters I ever written, I felt like there was a lot of backstory to him that still needed to be written. Not enough, there wasn't enough really to write a book. I was still trying to finish up Wolves of Biscay and get that to my publisher on time, but I really was like, there's a story there. I want to get that out, and as a result, the Essex Curve was written. Um, that's the Jubilee, Vichy Treasury, and Wolves of Biscay. So the story kind of follows two characters primarily. Faraday's kind of taken a side story with the rest of the series, but it follows Arthur Cutter. He's a British Oxford graduate, 20-year-old guy who when you first look at him, he doesn't even look like he can afford a beer, or he doesn't look old enough to buy a beer, barely looks old enough to be in service. So he's very unassuming, but that's what makes him such an effective spy. And we follow him throughout the series. He's very burned out. He doesn't want to go back into field work, yet the SOE continues to find manipulative ways to get him sent to France and do things and essentially be very Machiavellian with them. And then my other character is an American smuggler out of French West Africa named Gavin Briggs. Kind of a similar story. He's a down on his luck smuggler, kind of this Han Solo sort of character who essentially gets roped into operations in French West Africa by the British. And by the end of it all, he's now pivoted from being very self-serving and doing it for cash and money and paying off some debts to he's on a quest to hunt a Abwehr agent in France who killed the woman he loved. So it's a real interesting character mix. We got two different people. One's trying to survive the war. The other's hell bent on revenge, and they have to figure out how to make it work between the two of them. So that's really where the story follows for the upcoming book, Wolves of Biscay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm really looking into to read the longer books during the holiday break now. I will love to read them. Honestly, I did not have the chance to read the others than the Essex Curve. So, very, very interesting. So you already told your family brought you to World War II as a general topic. Were there any writers, films, or games that strongly influenced your storytelling approach or your storytelling?
Yeah, so I think with any World War II fan of the time period, I think every single one of us can raise their hands and say Band of Brothers, the mini series on HBO is a pretty good touch point on something that definitely fostered a lot of interest. At least for me.
How
I
many
won't
times
speak for
did you
everybody
watch
else.
the whole Band of Brothers
Oh
series?
my God, I think I could quote the whole series if you gave, I think I could win a bet on that. It's
I'm not
so
good in
well written.
quoting, but I'm good in watching Band of Brothers.
Oh my God. I To me that was a big deal. That between that and one of the very first World War II books I ever read was Jack Higgins's The Eagle Has Landed. And that book really stuck with me because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the protagonists are Nazis, Nazi parachutists. And so it was such a juxtaposition. It really, you're kind of rooting for him to kidnap Winston Churchill and do that. And it was just such a well written story where Jack Higgins wrote compelling characters that you don't really want to root for, but here you are being like holding your breath, like are they gonna succeed? That's what got me interested in writing. Writing is a character driven narrative, and if you can write compelling characters to any story, I mean that's what makes the story interesting. So that for me has really impacted how I write my stories. Is I want to, the setting is important, hence the Essex Curve with the Battle of Britain. But that's only half the equation. If you don't have a dynamic, interesting character that uh, has that character arc with the highs and lows of his hero's journey or her hero journey, it makes it a little two dimensional. And that's for me is a big deal, making a three-dimensional story. The same thing with Band of Brothers. I mean, you really learn about the characters. It's not just the events of the company. You learn to love the people that are in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to come back to that, but a bit later because for me it's fascinating. Also, just in the short novel, The Essex Curve, how you do that because I think it's very well done. Since I'm a nerd and know a lot about all these planes and all the stuff and all the background, and you squeeze that into that story perfectly. I mean, I will be the one who says, no, this is not historical accurate and so. And for me, it sounds like more complicated, and honestly, that was also the reason why I almost never read fictional World War II books because yeah, I think it's yeah. But let's come to that a bit later. I want to ask you about that, also about
Okay.
historical accuracy and so on. So, do you are you interested in history in general, like me, like reading everything about Romans and or about medieval times, or or is it something you're interested in general?
So in college, I was a classics major. I studied Greco-Roman history.
Ah.
I am a history nerd by trade.
Oh, you're a
And
professional. Sorry, sir.
so yeah, well, not professionally. I ended up pivoting into technology, but I got most of the books behind me are all about the Roman Empire or the Roman legions. I It's a period of time that fascinates me. I think I think any history is interesting because I mean at the end of the day it's history is a story.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I
Okay, so you read a lot about history as well, and you have not a special affiliation for World War II in general, or is it just one topic that interests you?
I think it's just one of many. I mean, I
Many,
think it's definitely like the predominant one. Especially when it comes to writing. I mean, when it comes to narrative storytelling, and the best part about is up until recently, growing up, we had so many primary sources to World War II.
yeah,
Grandparents, great grandparents who
yeah,
served and who experienced it. So we were able. It's one of those cataclysmic events that I mean, it's sending. It's like the 7 Years War, the 100 Years War, years before. It creates this ripple effect through history for the next 300, 400 years that we're going to be able to trace our roots back to.
okay.
So that's what just fascinates me about
I have a nerdy question for you. So,
it.
so can you explain me, or maybe you know the reason? I think the Band of Brothers, the first series about the Easy Company, has so much more depthness in characters than the Pacific. You know, the second one. And
Yeah,
it's way more interconnected. It's way more weaved into one thing. Is the reason because the Easy Company gives us such a good canvas, and it was so easier
yeah.
for the writers, and they did not find an equivalent company in the Pacific, or is there another reason? Was this?
I and this
Or
is
do
so
you
hard for me
agree? First
because
of all, do you agree with my observation?
no, I do, and it's so hard to say that because I'm a Marine, so I'm bashing the Pacific,
I'm
but
sorry.
I no, you're good. So I think for me, and this is my theory, is with the Pacific, it's three different, very splintered off stories, and
Yes.
it's And that's what makes it hard. Whereas with Easy Company, the Band of Brothers, it's just Easy Company. That's it. And it's a linear, easy to follow story. And I'm not saying the Pacific isn't. It's just you're way more tied in. It's not like a with the Pacific, you're jumping between three characters who really don't interface that much with one another. I mean, John Basilone, yeah, he was on Guadalcanal at the same time as Bob Leckie, and doing everything. He was on. He was doing Henderson Field, the seizure of that. Like as a Marine, when I look at that history, I'm like, yeah, they probably had mutual acquaintances and stuff, but you don't see them in the same foxhole. You don't even see them on the same front line. So that's what's hard. Whereas with Easy Company and Band of Brothers,
Yeah,
that's what makes it. I think that's the secret sauce for it's what made it so good.
but I mean, do you think they did not find another company that gave them the same depthness in characters and story, or did not want to do
I
it? And did they try something new? Sorry, it's really nerdy. I hope the audience.
no, that's yeah. Hey, no, that's fine. I think that's the hard part is finding a unit. Like with Easy Company. I mean, it was the most decorated company in the entire East European theater. I mean, so that they're on its head. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, I think for with the Marines, I think what the hardest part was is when you look at the island hopping campaigns and the casualty rates with those amphibious landings and everything. I don't think there's this narrative there where there is a consistent um, there's a consistent unit that is going from Guadalcanal all the way to like Iwo Jima and
Mm,
Okinawa, where
mm,
they are invading the entire span of the Pacific. I mean, I think with Bob Leckie, he started in Guadalcanal. I think it was Peleliu that he stopped at. John Basilone, he started on Guadalcanal, went back for more with Iwo Jima. There, due to the fierceness of the fighting, like they really rotated units out before the end. Whereas with Easy Company, I mean, obviously they missed North Africa, they missed Italy, but they started on Normandy and they made it all the way to Bavaria.
mm.
That's what made the narrative a little better, where there's like a linear conclusion to it. Whereas like with like a Guadalcanal unit, I don't think it would end with Iwo Jima. It would end to that point. It's Peleliu is the
Mm.
ending.
I mean,
It's not a fitting end.
I mean, with Easy Company, we also have this gap in fall 44 when they had a
Right.
break. We get also
Yeah.
a break from the story. But let's get back to your writing. That's because that's where we're here. But thank you very much, Connor, for your explanation. Makes sense. Were there any writer films? I asked you. Oh, sorry. Your inspiration.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your biggest inspiration, and who inspired you the most?
So another like W. Have you guys ever heard of W.E.B. Griffin? He wrote this series called the Core series. It's
No, I have
essentially
not.
I would recommend it. It is outstanding. He wrote a couple different World War II series, but his stories are all it's about his first series, the Core. It's about the Marine Corps from start to finish of the war, and I loved the way he wrote characters. I mean, he drill into go all the way down to what's their favorite kind of alcoholic beverage. It's the granularity of it. Like he really breathed life into a character so they could step off the page. And to me, that was like I said. I mean, a good story does have a good setting, but it's a great character that makes the story worth reading.
Mm.
That's what I've been trying to mimic every time.
Yeah, I love your characters so far. Makes totally sense. This is very inspiring. So, yeah, let's get to this researching and historical accuracy and so on. So I think when I read the Essex Curve, I mean you know a lot about Spitfires and the cockpit and all the stuff because you described that very detailed and we bit into the story. I think this is wonderful. So how do you do research and what inspires you
So for
when you
me, I
do this
mean,
research for your stories?
so I spend probably around 2 weeks before I start writing any story, doing research, which maybe on its head doesn't sound like a lot, but the way I look at it is, do my 2 weeks, I'll do my outline of a story, and I'll start writing. And one of the things that we say in the Marine Corps is, a plan doesn't survive first contact with the enemy.
Yes.
Uh, so too is that true when it comes to writing. I'll start writing and I'm like, no, that initial idea for this outline isn't going to work. So I have to pivot back. And for me, part of that involves me going back and looking through the historical timeline and saying, could my idea of a story fit what actually happened during the war from an accuracy perspective? That's a big deal to me. Is like keeping it true to the narrative. If I can't, so like with the Essex curve, we talk about Eagle Day as a big part of it. Adler Tag, when the Luftwaffe threw everything they had in at England, that's a big part of the final part of the Essex curve. And me had to do a lot of research into what was the scheme of maneuver of the Luftwaffe. What was the strategy of the doubting system? How did that work? So for me, it's a lot of it old history and knowledge I've accumulated over the years, just being passionate and engaged with the period of time, which is great. And then, for me, I'm lucky. I got primary sources when it comes to aviation. So my dad read Essex Curve before I even published it, and my dad always is great at this. He'll pick apart. No, we wouldn't say that in the cockpit. No, it's too wordy. You know, and so I've got a lot of primary sources in the aviation community where they picked it apart pretty mercilessly just to make sure it sounded the way it should. So it's part research, but it's also going to find subject matter experts and asking them the questions and making sure, hey, does it hold up to you guys reading it?
Oh, that makes sense, and that's wonderful to hear. I think that's I think a very very inspiring interaction for you as well with your dad. Cool. And when you read historical books about World War II, do you kind of have post-its in them and say, some once I want to write a story about that or this character or
Oh yeah.
this officer? Would something someone be that I want to put into my stories?
But yeah, so I get to the point where, and I have, you can see one of them. I have post-it notes on that wall where if I'm reading something, I'll be like, that's a really interesting data point. I'm gonna write that down and I'm gonna put it on the wall and be like, hey, this will be a part of the story somewhere somehow. It's not always a historical factoid. It could just be, um, so here's a great example. So for my second book, the Vichy Treasury. The story is about it's a treasure hunt through French West Africa, and the way I found out about this, I was deployed to Senegal in the town of Chess, and myself and my interpreter, because my French is okay, it's not great.
Ah, vous parlez pas
I needed someone
français?
to help me. Un peu. Uh, it could be way better.
Yeah, we
Um,
should not switch to French then.
yeah, I'm scared to do it. I am not a polyglot like probably most of your listeners are. Unfortunately,
No,
my
I don't
English
think
is my
so. That's why
primary
I said
English.
no, no. I don't. First of all, I don't speak French. I just pretend to, and I don't think our audience speaks French. Or they speak other
Okay.
languages, but I don't think I did not see too many Frenchmen. A lot of Americans, Canadians, British, German,
Uh,
France. I did not see too. I don't know why, but no. Sorry, sorry for interrupting you.
no, all good. But yeah, so we're in this town of Chess, and I turn to my interpreter and I'm like, "Hey, what's that building right there?" It's this little squat bunker, and he just goes, "Oh, that's where they hid the gold." Like, what do you mean hid the gold? It's like, oh, during World War II, when the Nazis invaded France, they evacuated all their gold bullion down here and hid it in the Sahel here in this desert. And I was like, that's a fascinating, like that's insane. I've never heard that before. So I wrote that down and I had this green notepad when I was in the
Oh, cool.
service. And so I wrote it down. I'm like, gotta make that into a book. And
That's
yeah,
very
so
cool.
3 years later, I was able to write Vichy Treasury.
Cool. And so you inspired more by people you read about, stories about individuals, or more about historical events and stuff that's happening?
It really is. It's kind of a flip of a coin, you know. I mean, with Battle of Britain, like I said, I mean that was the modern Thermopylae in my opinion, and that's just such a. I mean, it's the largest air war in world history. It was like a 10-to-1 ratio between the Luftwaffe and the RAF. You talk about just the sheer magnitude of that battle, like that alone is an attractor. But obviously, it's what makes that whole scenario the way it was based off the individuals that made decisions during that. Great example of that. I don't include him in the book, but it always blows my mind is Lord Beaverbrook of Winston Churchill's cabinet, who was in charge of aircraft manufacturing. I mean, this guy completely, like, I mean, he just was doing whatever it took to get aircraft in the air as fast as possible, like cutting any corner he could, bending any law he possibly could just to get the aircraft in the air. And it's those kind of stories. I'm like, wow, that's nuts that you guys were able to do that in essentially, pull off a miracle. Like no one expected the English to survive that, to weather that storm. Yet here they were, alone and unafraid, with some of the exiled governments of Europe and expats, loading up the RAF as well, and they threw everything they could in the kitchen sink at the Luftwaffe and made it happen. So, yeah, I mean, for me,
Wait,
it's the
wait. Let me
story, but
quickly jump in here, just to nerd around.
yeah,
That's one of the most not known fact is that the reason why they had all these expat pilots is roughly a third of the pilots that were fighter pilots, and then exactly what you just said, because the pilots could bail out and they were not
yeah,
prisoners of war, or they did not land if they did not land in the
yeah,
canal or in the sea, they could jump into the next plane. And during the Battle of Britain, Britain was able to produce more and more planes. But in the beginning, in the first, help me now, I'm not, but I guess the first 2 months they had really
yeah,
shortage, and then after successfully more and more planes, they could kind of make more and more planes ready, airworthy, and produce them as well, and that really helped and changed the numbers dramatically. So in fall and to winter, so the numbers already changed quite a lot, and the Luftwaffe had more and more problems in terms of numbers, just a pure number game.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, after when they missed the date for Sea Lion in October, at that point, I mean, it was kind of all bets are off. The Germans can't do an amphibious landing. I mean, it was kind of like that collective sigh of relief for the English, and especially after Dunkirk, being able to get the British Expeditionary Force off the beaches. I mean, it really was like it's insane what they were able to do in like those 4 or 5 months to just mitigate complete capitulation and defeat before World War II really hit the fever pitch of what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a crazy story. And I mean, what was it? Some of the pilots got shot down twice a day and still jumped back into a plane. I mean, it's crazy. It's just, I mean, you really bring that feeling over at the end of the Essex Curse, the first chapter, when you really you are really feeling that pilot. Wow, I'm in. He's happy. He's a hero in air quotes, but he's feared of going back and terrorized going back again. I mean, totally described, and I feel like, what, you're shot down twice and then you just jump back into a plane. That's a
Yeah, you got to be steely eyed to do that.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, the Essex curve was very hard. I mean, I don't know. Do you know the numbers? But how many pilots survived or died in their first
I
dogfight?
mean, it was.
A
I think they
lot.
were showing around. I think it was like between 20 and 30%
Yeah. I have the
attrition
same
for
exact.
early pilots. I got to go back and pull the
No,
data,
no.
but
I
I
have
mean,
the
it
same
was
number in my head. I think you're right. A little bit below, between 15 and 25. I remember. I would have said,
yeah.
but no, it's crazy. No.
I mean, it was got to the point. I remember reading Hugh Dowding was just like, "Don't send pilots out over the channel. Like, don't do this. If you do, it's they're not getting them back."
Uh, uh. And so we are now, yeah, almost, or we're nearing the anniversary, the 100 in 20 years. There is the 100 anniversary of the end of the World War II. And what do you think makes World War II still such an enduring setting for fiction even today? What is it? Is it just because it was the biggest war and it kind of shaped the world as we have it today, or is there something else?
Um, I think it's still relevant. I think when we talk about the present climate and everything else, and just geopolitics, you look at what the outcome of World War II was. We literally segued right into the Cold War. I mean, it's a ripple effect. So I mean, to talk about World War II is you're essentially just talking about, even to this day, hey, we're looking at what the aftermath was of that direct conflict.
Absolutely.
Not much has changed. I mean, with the exception of the USSR collapsing. I mean, the overall international boundaries are relatively the same. So it's something that when you talk about like the Chinese, like the Koreans, everyone in Asia, like they still harbor deep animosity to Japan because of what they did. At the end of the day, when you talk about, Europe as a whole and Germany and Russia and everybody else, like there is still a political undertone of what was the aftermath of that. Why obviously Russia became the big nemesis after the war, but NATO and everything else that was created was because of a lot of the stuff that was occurring.
Mm.
You know,
Absolutely. I mean,
it's
Puro Games in the chat has also something very good. He just wrote all the technology development changed the world as well. A very good point.
yeah,
Absolutely, I love it. You're totally right. I mean, technology made a light warp almost. I mean, if you see
yeah,
aviation from 1939 to 46, 47, it's crazy. The nukes, sloped
I mean
armor,
jet
night
propulsion.
vision. They wrote in the chat, totally
Yeah,
right. I mean, the list goes on and on. And as you said, we had the transition from a British Empire to an American dominated world order. I mean, this was also, or at least in the first few years, and then afterwards a duopoly. I mean, the Cold War, as you said it, absolutely. The assault rifles, thank you, Puro, exactly.
yeah.
It
I mean,
changed a lot, and I mean, also for me, I having I was still around where you could talk to the grandparents, and they lived it all through, and I mean that's I think also an important thing as well. But still, I mean, for me, it's still fascinating that this is such a huge pool of yeah, of just events, settings, people for fiction, and for me, it never gets boring. It's so crazy. I mean,
yeah,
I can read on, and I still learn about new things all the time. And I feel I'm like doing that now for 25 years, at least. No more,
yeah.
30 years. Really, yeah, every week, literally every week, I read something new. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah. It's almost like you have to break it down by campaign or theater. I mean, for me, a big one that I've always been fascinated with is the North Africa campaign with Erwin Rommel and everything that he did against Montgomery, Claude Auchinleck, and when Operation Torch occurred and the U.S. Invaded. It's such a to me that's such a fascinating space to learn about, just because of the logistics required for North African transportation and everything else. Like you learn something new every time, just because England and what they were doing, they had to keep the Suez Canal open, like understanding the strategic logistical values and how almost everything going on in North Africa was logistics oriented. It blew my mind. Like the more I think about it, what Napoleon once said was, amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. It's such a true statement.
Oh yeah, well that's the backbone of the U.S. Army. I mean, of Europe, the military might of the U.S. I mean, you know it better than me. You're a professional in that field, but basically you're just a big, gigantic, a logistical operation, and the best organization in that in the world. I mean,
Well,
absolutely.
well, that's what I mean. Whoever can do logistics, that's they will conquer the world. That's the end of the day. So I mean, whoever can create and manufacture things and outpace losses, that's what matters.
Mm.
And
I
yeah.
mean, the North Africa, by the way, is anyway very, very fascinating in not only in logistics, but you're absolutely right, but also in the influences of the other fields, and I never understood why the war was fought there. And I mean, the answer that it's just yeah, well, Mussolini made his adventure and Hitler had to help him. It's a little bit short-sighted, I think, because
Yeah.
they had other plans. I mean, you don't talk about that too much, but I mean, the canal in Egypt and so on. I mean, and the control of the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, this is so interconnected. But I don't know how you feel about it. But for the first look at it, it's kind of what? Why they're fighting there?
Yeah, for me, I was always surprised with, and I mean, I get it from a deployment perspective of why like Benghazi, Tripoli, and everything else were such hub points for the Italians and the Nazis. But I mean, at the end of the day, Cairo, the Suez, gateway to the oil fields, between Baghdad, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, like that really was the point of importance for them. But they had other ways of entry if they really wanted to. I mean, they could have probably gone in through,
Well,
off the top of my head, they probably could have gone through the Caucasus and a
yeah,
joint
but they
Soviet,
realized it too late.
strike
No, no,
option.
no, no. In the end,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, they had plans to kind of do that as well, but it was too late. That's yeah, and we're tripping off from. It's very probably we could
hey,
talk
it's a
forever.
fun thing to talk about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So, hey, chat, if you want to ask Connor something about his books or writing, now is the time. I want to shift a little bit to gaming, Connor, if that's okay for you. And I mean,
yeah,
you
I
found
love talking gaming.
cool, cool, very cool. You found Ground of Aces and wrote us an email. I really appreciate it. But do you remember how did you find Ground of Aces?
Yeah, so I mean, I pulled you guys up on Steam. I mean, so I'm a big game nerd. I love sandbox games. I love RTSs. I love the kind of base building games and tower defense vibes that essentially Ground of Aces what that's what attracted me to it. And for me, like seeing Ground of Aces, I've always thought, when you think of Battle of Britain and the background for it, I mean, it really is the ultimate kind of tower defense, resource management, base building like scenario. And I've always been amazed why no one's really ever focused on building a game based off that. And when I saw you guys were developing, and I'm like, oh my god, you guys have figured something out, and I'm still amazed no one else ever has. Like this is it's a fascinating game. You're essentially a squadron leader able to do resource management and send aircraft on missions. To me, that was like that's a kid. That was my childhood dream, being able to pretend to do that.
Cool. So we share
So for
something.
me, I was super stoked about it.
And you are not mad at us that we are not really historical accurate.
So here's my thing on historical accuracy. I think if you can do it, you should. But if it can't, it shouldn't hinder a good story. Or
A good
and that's what
gameplay.
video games. Yeah, video games, movies, and books, they are a medium of narrative storytelling. So at the end of the day, I mean, if you're able to still develop a compelling narrative or a compelling game where you have a great end user, gamer, reader, viewer experience, and yeah, you got to tweak the rules of history to make it work. That happens. It's not, you're never going to hit 100%. If anyone who says that it's 100% accurate, I call bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. Pardon my
No,
language,
no,
but
that's
yeah,
good.
I
That's good.
mean,
You,
you
you
shouldn't get too absorbed.
yeah, yeah. No, we had a lot of people that were mad at us in the beginning because we had gardening in a airfield simulation,
But
and
but that's not untrue though, because
I
you
know,
look
I
at
know that was my
England with
argument.
ration. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's logistics. I was a logistician in the Marine Corps, so like for me, it's very important. Like you gotta beans, bullets, and band-aids. You gotta support that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean they were kind of frustrated that they said it's not true that they kind of grew their own food on the airfield totally, and they said it's absolutely untrue, and I know that's not true because they grew their own food, but I mean
Yep.
not in the numbers, maybe tomatoes and some fruits because it was fun. That's absolutely true, and maybe they had a pig because yeah, or whatever. But I mean, I love your explanation and your kind of your motto. That's I totally agree. And also with the same thing, it's never historical accurate. Not sadly, not even documentaries are always very accurate.
It's true.
And what fascinates you about the game from a perspective of an author? I mean, is it because you can live
I
it when you build it, or?
it so this is what I like about Ground Aces, like from that perspective for narratively telling a story. So this is what I've done with my base. I built it based off what I would imagine an airfield would look like for when I write a story. So I've been able to do that, which is really cool. I essentially get to actually visualize how I would do it. So that way, when I go write the story, it gives me better visualization to like key off of and actually describe like how an RAF base would look and stuff like that. So that's one of the things I love. And I mean, just honestly, as a gamer, like it's a fun game. Like it's great. I think I'm 40 hours in. So I'm
Oh,
having a blast with
I
it.
hope your wife is not mad at me.
No, 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 no. I do it after hours, so
Okay.
she's good with it. So
So yeah, as a game producer, I need to ask you, what do you think? Can games capture that books can't, and what can books capture that games can't?
yeah. So I mean, and this is the great part is you don't have to. It's not a trade off. So you can have all three. When it comes to film, gaming, and there and
I even
books.
would
So that
add comic books to it. It's four for me.
oh, absolutely. I'd lump that in with books as a whole. I mean, I I love them. So to that end, I mean, I think when you look at comic books and novels and stuff, what you get with that is you get the internal monologue. So you actually get a little deeper into what a character's thinking and feeling and stuff like that, rather than like with film. Sometimes there's a voiceover, but really you're seeing how they react audibly and visually. I think a great example is in the Apple series Masters of the Air. You see them all pent up frustration, everything post mission. But you don't really feel their mental state. That can't really be articulated, but it's still a great visualization of it. And then I think with games, I think games takes it to the next level. I mean, you get to visualize it and you get to hear it, but more importantly, you get to be able to experience it to a degree. And I think that's something that makes gaming such a great vehicle for storytelling because it takes it to the next level where you're not just showing or telling a story, you're able to pull the gamer into the story and actually let them experience it in a different way. And the great part with, I mean, Ground Bases is to a degree a sandbox game. It allows them to tinker with it and experiment with what it was like during the Battle of Britain. You know, as how do you have to set up a base for a scramble? How do you have to billet your folks? How does that work? What would be able to keep your crews safe? So I think that's great because it makes people think more about it.
hmm I think yeah. I mean, thank you because you just brought it up again, and it's very fascinating. I mean, in books, your characters they can think and you can kind of put the reader into their mind and into their brain. What that you cannot do in the other trees. That's very cool. But you have to imagine everything, and I love it. And then with comic books, you can do both, and you can. I mean, what fascinates me with comic books is that what goes on in your head between the pictures. When you jump from one to the
Yes.
other, you kind of imagine the rest. But you can also kind of as an author, you can also bring in thoughts, and then in film, as you described, you see everything. I mean, it's really fantastic, and so on. And in games, then you are the one in charge. Yeah, I would love to actually do something that covers all four genres in one. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, we got to figure that out. So
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
that would be that'll
Next
conquer the world.
production. Did you ever want to?
Yeah.
Did you ever want to write a film?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. A really good friend of mine. He's a screenwriter. He and I started writing together. He and I It's really cool. A guy named James Allen Roth. He writes a lot of common paranormal stories, different genre for me altogether. But he's in screenwriting, and he used to tell me like you should just go into screenwriting. Like you got the narrative stories and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but it's so different. It's the way you present a story and stuff. It's such a different visual. It's just a different narrative vehicle, and it's something I've been interested in. But I got I for me, I want to finish my series first before I pivot. I don't want to be like George R. R. Martin and not finish what I've started. You know,
Okay.
hopefully, I won't get a call from him saying, "What the heck, man."
Makes sense, makes sense. Makes total sense. Yeah, but you also gave a good explanation why there are not very good multiverses where you can follow one character or one group in all these different medias, because it needs such a multi-talented writers room, and because you think so different in all these different genres, makes 100% sense. I mean, we wrote sometimes, we work sometimes with filmmakers, and it's a completely different way of making art. It's
Yeah,
really really different, and you feel like, oh, but it's the same story, and I mean, no, it's not.
it's got to be communicated a different way. Like you can't do an internal monologue, like for
Absolutely.
film and stuff.
Uh,
So, but I mean, it's something I'm fascinated with. But yeah, I'm gonna postpone ever trying to wade into that probably for another 2 years or 3 years.
And is there another game we need to make about World War II? Do you have something on your wish list? We should
Did you guys
produce.
make a POW game?
Oh, now, whoa, that's interesting. Uh, um, okay, well, wait. Can I spoil something, or can I talk about discussions? So actually, we were thinking of also having the POWs in Ground of Aces, but
Ooh,
yeah, exactly. Now it starts. I mean, this is a multi-layered problem. First of all, I mean, you need to do it very cautious, and I mean, think
mhm.
it if you do it in that scenario as we are doing it, I think you have a lot of moral problems. I mean, I don't want to do
Right, absolutely.
a game where you can torture POWs and then it's in this nice setting. Maybe I want to do it, but then I really want to make sure, yeah, it's not making fun of the victims. That's just a personal choice from me. But
Right.
I mean, that's one thing, and then the other thing is also you have some limitations. Um, in what you are allowed to do, actually, people don't know that, but it's you cannot do the brutalist game
Well, what I mean
on
is from
Steam.
the POV of from the point of view of the prisoners as a kind of like a Great Escape spinoff.
Now I see. Not in turn, not like Ground of Faces
Yeah,
where
not
you
not not
manage
the
a
not the
camp.
warden of the exactly. Yeah, trying
Okay.
to escape and like
Escape
setting
game.
up
Okay.
your
So
internal yeah.
does someone in the chat know if such a game exists? I'm not sure. Someone wrote it already exists, but I guess Protege and Luca, you don't meant an escape game. Yeah, that's a cool idea. I love it. I mean, yeah, the like the film. Yeah, that will be cool. I agree. That will be very very
But
cool. Like a stealth shooter from a ego
yeah,
perspective.
something like you still have to
Did
do resource gathering, like digging tunnels and everything
Yeah?
else.
Did you
I
ever
mean,
play Commandos?
Commandos. No,
Uh,
I've heard of the game. Let me.
oh, that's a very famous. That's very old. I think four versions exist. Hogan Heroes. Someone wrote. I don't know. Do you know Hogan Heroes? I don't know that
Yeah,
Captain Long
I'm.
John Silver. That's interesting. But Commandos, you need to play, Connor. That's a classic from Germany. You have your 3 to 9, I guess, characters, and you move them around, and you have to make missions. And it's World War II.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
it's
it? I think I just found it on Steam. Is it Commandos Origins?
This is I guess they did a new version, and they also reshaped it. How do I say it? If they make it brand new so it works again on your computer. Um,
I'm gonna
uh,
have to check that out.
yeah. You
I'm
need to
not
check it.
fascinated by
Oh
that.
yeah. Will now you lose another 20 hours or
Eh,
more. I spent
hey,
like
it's
my
eternal
childhood.
baseball still.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. If there is no other question from the chat, I will just continue. You talked already a little bit it, and you also gave me you kind of your how you approach it. But let's go back a bit. How much time do you spend in research, and how do you actually do it? Do you know first your characters, and then you search like a setting for it, or do you know I have this setting and I need a character in it, or can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so it's funny you should bring that up. I'm currently working on a new project. It's modern day, kind of a Red Storm Rising kind of story, and essentially it's like how would World War III develop and be triggered. And I've got the setting and the beats of how this like the war game would occur. And I do have a character that I'm still fleshing out. It's really hard. I'm like trying to figure out his voice. For me, it's like, what the way I kind of develop my characters is, hey, what's their motivation? Why are they doing what they're doing? Why is Faraday why is Faraday in the RAF? What's his reason? His reasons. His mother's English. And to that point, it's like why is he willing to go up and do this and fly missions? And it's because he doesn't want to let the people that he flies with down. It's figuring out what a motivation is and actually having that tie in. Like why are they able to conquer their fears? Why are they doing what they're doing? And that's usually kind of how I go about developing characters. Is what's their through line? What is it that makes them who they are? Like what's their moral compass?
And if I can ask you, just tell me what you want to tell us. Does this new book play in the future, or now, or Cold War, World War Two,
Uh,
3 in Cold
it's
War?
it'll be present day.
Okay.
So it's
Cool. Okay, yeah, that's yeah, that's seems to be a hard challenge to find such a
yeah.
character.
So,
And is it
but
easier
that's
for
just a
you?
side project.
Is it
What's
easier?
that?
Is it easier now for you to write something in the present, or than in World War Two?
It's different rules. It's so funny. This is the first time I've written modern day, and so like I've started into it. And whereas with World War II, it's kind of been for me, World War II is easier. I'm able to get into it. I'm able to hit the beats. Not even talking about the historical narrative, but the character arcs. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's because you kind of know what people's motivations were during
Yeah.
World War II. At least that's what it kind of seems like to me. With the modern day, it's because it's not like globalization and everything else, and motivations aren't very. It's much more mercenary, at least in how I've started writing this story. And so, like trying to figure out, hey, what's a true useful through line that narratively makes sense for a character, is something I'm trying to is what I've been wading into. Like, hey, how do I give this protagonist a voice and make him unique? It's to that end, and not make him seem stereotypical or be a carbon copy of like Jack Ryan from Tom
Yeah.
Clancy or any other or Jack Reacher or something like that. What can separate him from the rest of the pantheon of heroes in the modern day?
Cool. So we have a question from the audience now. SPK Hunter asks us, "What are both your opinion on the big wing theory?" Um.
Oh,
So yeah, what is your opinion?
I am a Keith Park fan. So funny story. Vice Marshal Lee Mallory is an antagonist in my second book in my book Jubilee. Um, Big Wing Theory. I mean, I think a lot of the things that they said about it that were negative. It eats up a lot of gas, getting everybody up to altitude, getting everybody to formation. I like to me going on sorties, going on three ship flights to go and engage the enemy, and just be a bunch of mosquitoes hitting the big targets. To me, made more sense. And honestly, the more I think about it, when you talk about, and I'm sorry, I'm going into a long answer, but
No, that's
I'm
good.
passionate about
Wait,
this.
but maybe Connor. First of all, maybe not everybody in the audience knows what's the big wing theory. Just very briefly describe it, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, the big wing theory, so there were two conceptual arguments about how the RAF should fight. You
And
had the
wait,
big wing
let's
theory.
also explain it and correct me because I'm not a super expert in that. But in France, when where the first fighting took off in 1940, they did not had really a lot of time to really make
Exactly.
progress with the new planes in tactics. That's also important.
Yeah. So and so backing up to that, so when you had the BEF, the British Expeditionary Force in France, when Germany was blitzkrieging across, their ability to rapidly react to the German advance posed a lot of issues for them because they were not getting on target or the designated target in time. They were often, by the time they got there, the Germans already steamrolled through. So because of that, and fast forward to the Battle of Britain, there's a lot of discussion on how do we combat the Luftwaffe as they come over and start bombing targets of opportunity in the airfields. And the two most vocal people were Lee Mallory and Keith Park, and Hugh Dowding as well, under who Keith Park and Mallory reported to. Primarily, though, Lee Mallory was the proponent of the big wing. It was you scrambled all of your aircraft, you had them all climb to altitude as giant squadrons and form these giant wing formations of aircraft. And then they all go together and attack en masse the aircraft that were vectoring to a target. Conversely, you had Keith Park's strategy, which is essentially, you'd send them out one by in small flights, two or three ship flights, all amassing and vectoring to a spot and attacking all simultaneously, or in a staggered attack in of minutes. Um, in my opinion, is I think the Park strategy of sending out ships one by one or in smaller groups worked better, uh, because at the end of the day, when you look at the research and how the Luftwaffe was responding to a lot of their attacks, like they didn't like flying escort at the same altitude as the bombers. They wanted to stay nice and high and be
Speed.
able to use the potential energy from the altitude to get in and go after aircraft. And that benefited them in the big wing formations when you had, a bunch of little Spitfires attacking like mosquitoes and getting up into the formations of the Heinkel's and the other German bombers. It forced the German fighters to descend and engage. You got like multiple ships descending to engage these free fighters. It was the juice wasn't worth the squeeze for the Luftwaffe, and it made them lose all that altitude and potential energy to engage, big wing aircraft if they ever came across. Whereas with big wing, they were slow to form. You burned a lot of energy, altitude and fuel doing it, and then by the time you got there, chances were the Luftwaffe had already bombed their target. So that was kind of a bit of a long explanation, but for me,
Well,
I don't like
perfect,
the big wing.
perfect. Thank you. But now your opinion is clearly you are again against the big wing theory, correctly? You've
Yes, sir.
yeah, okay, yeah, me absolutely too. Didn't they also not changing it completely then during the war? I mean, for me, big wing theory always sounds like cavalry attacking, old school, learning from the ground. You
Yeah,
need to be
exactly.
together. You need to be with one thrust, but it's in the air. It's not on the ground. The completely other dynamics and rules. And I mean, for me, it's like old generals making a tactics, also
Exactly.
dictating a tactics that made no sense. And then they had to get a bloody nose until they realized, oh, maybe we have to listen to Boder and the other pilots that were actually up in the air, and
Right.
realized what was happening. But am I too harsh with the old generals here, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm trying to remember what the book was, but they talked a lot about, I think it was on Wings of Eagles, maybe. But they were talking a lot about Lee Mallory. He was a very much a political animal
Yeah,
in the RAF.
absolutely.
And, he was one of the reasons Dowding got relieved. And I mean, doubting his system of how to do scrambles and vectoring aircraft to intercept. I mean, really was the reason the RAF won, in my opinion, won the Battle of Britain. Obviously their ability with logistics and being able to field the aircraft and maintain pilots is part of that. But when Lee Mallory took over, and this is something I talk about in Jubilee, is Lee Mallory along with Lord Mountbatten, they were very political. They really wanted to climb the ladder. They were part of the reason why the Dieppe raid, Operation Jubilee, occurred. It was a nightmare for both the RAF and the commando units and the Canadians that went forward and did that. And a lot of it, I think,
And
is
also for the audience,
because
please, can you quickly explain what this operation was? Just very quickly.
yeah. So Operation Jubilee uh, is also known as the Dieppe raid. Big deal, I know, for a lot of
Great.
Canadians because it was the Canadians that got thrown in. It
Yes.
was a it was
That
a
was also
they
political decision, by the way. They were
yes,
fresh. They
and
were. The explanation was, yeah, they're all new. They did not fight. Well, yeah, no, you knew where you put them in my opinion.
oh yeah, yeah. But so for the Dieppe raid, they used that as it was a test bed for essentially they wanted to figure out what an amphibious landing would look like as they started planning for Overlord for D-Day. And for that operation, they sent the Canadians in, a lot
How
of
many?
British.
7,000, 7,000 men, or
Yeah, I,
4,000?
I believe it was 7,000. I think they showed 25% casualty rate
Yeah.
after the fact between prisoners and casualties. But they had them, the commandos, every single RAF Eagle squadron, as well as a few others. And for this was probably the biggest tour de force of the big wing theory by Lee Mallory. A lot of aircraft got shot down from AA and enemy fighters over France, not over England. So they weren't able to reclaim their pilots. There was a lot of POWs that happened with this because the intelligence was incorrect. The British War Office thought that there would be minimal defenses. There was an entire Panzer division 5 miles inland that came in and mopped up. But to that end, going back to the big wing conversation, it was a decision and a raid that was sponsored by Mountbatten and Lee Mallory, which is part of the reason I don't like Lee Mallory. I think
Mm.
he made a lot of decisions for his own benefit.
Yeah, yeah. Now we have the chat going on. Tyrell just wrote as a Canadian, I was shocked when I read it. Yes, I was shocked as a Swiss when I read it, by the way. But also, it was
Yeah,
kind of catastrophically planned. I mean, they planned to go in and out, and they basically not really got in. But you need to help me. I have a blind spot there. Why were the losses for the RAF so catastrophic, and why they were even involved? I don't remember. Can you help me? What was the
yeah.
task
So
they were assigned to?
primary original mission for the RAF was to provide top cover because of there were a lot of Luftwaffe fighters in that area.
They were
Because I mean,
still
if you think about
stationed
where,
there, but the Operation Barbarossa already started, and why they were was it because of the bomber raids from that time, or
yeah. So with the Luftwaffe, so they were still expecting an invasion at Calais, and so they were still staging aircraft in and around the Atlantic Wall. Obviously, they were pulling everything over to the Eastern Front, but they were still scared of when and if the invasion will occur. It was kind of honestly, if they had picked a better time and maybe thought it out a little better, it probably would have been a lot more effective. It's not like the Luftwaffe was throwing a lot of aircraft into the air, but they were throwing just enough that it was causing the RAF problems. They weren't
so they brought
expecting
in
any
their
kind of
all
aircraft
their
opposition.
planes with the big wing thing, just all the planes, and
Yeah,
then after they all ran out of fuel, they had basically no fighters anymore. Or am I now
yeah.
simplifying it too
So
much?
so so they sent all three RAF Eagle squadrons together in a big wing formation to fight. I mean, when you think about how long it took them to get over to get out to altitude, cross, and Spitfire, I mean, they only had maybe 5 minutes of airtime before
I
they had
just wanted
RTB.
to ask you exactly. Is it
Yeah.
20 minutes? It was 5 minutes. So all
I
planes
mean,
arrived in 5 minutes and then they were gone. I mean, oh.
so to that end, they lost air supremacy isn't there. You got Stukas bombing the Dieppe, the beaches of Dieppe, and then a lot of the attack. So before they even went in and took the did the raid, they had commando units attacking the on the flanks at different beaches where there were AA emplacements and RD emplacements. So in my book Jubilee, I talk a lot about Orange Beach, where combined operations number 40 commando went in. They were the only commando unit to successfully siege their target and destroy the artillery emplacements in AA. And then everyone else, no other unit was able to actually accomplish their tasks. And they were on the beach. I think they landed at 4 a.m. I think they had to withdraw at like 2 in the afternoon. I mean, the amount of casualties, the amount of POWs that were captured, it's insane.
And
It's kind of like who thought this through?
And the cover up was we learned a lot for Operation Overlord
Yeah,
and for Operation Husky later in Sicily. I mean, that was basically what they were saying, but we know now
yeah,
it was just a completely fuck up. Sorry for my language, but it was
no,
one of the
absolutely,
big disasters from the Allies in World War II. And they say such
yeah.
a small spy, but I learned something. I love it. I did not know that the Royal Air Force also had in the air that big misplanning completely. But I hope we answered the question about the big wing theory. I mean, SPK Hunter, both of us don't like it at all. I'm a bit
Yeah.
harsher than Connor here because I think really it's for me it's a completely example of a general making a plan, having no idea what's actually going on in the air. For me, it's
100%.
stupid in the beginning, but I mean, I know I say that in hindsight. I know I was not there. I had not the. But yeah, I mean. So, is there something you want to ask me, Connor, about Ground of Aces or about the game, or yeah? So we.
So my big question is, and this isn't this isn't a rehearsed question, so I'm not feeding you anything. But what's your biggest roadmap item that you're most excited about between here and going live, not doing early access on Steam?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Oh, I don't know. So first of all, you have to know we are an indie game studio. So this question would be for me would be completely different if I had a huge budget. But just to give you an idea, we are 9 people. Actually, we are 7 people who are not working in marketing or communication, working on that game. One is a tester that leaves us with 6 people actually making the game. So as a producer, my most scared resources is manpower, woman power, to do actually what I want. So if I had a game a team. I have a wonderful team, so it's not their problem. It's a resource problem. But I have a bigger team. I could do much more. I mean, the current, the biggest restraint is resources. But if I know that and if I take that into account, and yeah, for me, it's really making adding more game system that kind of really give you more ways to play it and give you a hard time to master it. So for me at the moment, and you will also see we just did an update this week where we added 2 new parameters where you can make explosions harder and attack more frequent. So now you can set that the Luftwaffe attacks you 3 times a week and the explosions can be 3 times bigger. And I really want to be punished. I really want to make it very, very hard for me. And there are many, many other alleys you can go down. As an example, smaller guns would kind of give you more ways of also detect and defend attacks from strafes, from Messerschmitts, and so on. So you would kind of have to take that into account. Obviously, we will have to make the attacks smarter, and we will. The other thing is the whole intel stuff. So you cannot send out all your pilots without having the intel, and that's one thing I'm really looking forward into it. So because you later in the game you will really just lose everybody if you don't have enough insights, and that would kind of make it way harder. Originally, you have to know, I always had the idea of you have a game where you lose your people and you feel sad because you are connected and bonded to them because you built a
Yeah.
home for them, but you don't see it. You don't. It's
Yeah.
just this feeling of a squadron leader that does not go into the air, sends him off, and then you just wait. Do they come back or not? And I really want to work more on that. And then way on a more practical
Right.
side, I hope we find the time the end. I mean the money in the end. To make 2-level and 3-level story buildings and bunkers, so beneath and up, because this will kind of make it way more fun to build. And then a lot of obvious stuff, smaller stuffs, and so on. And then the other very big thing, I mean, it's a new faction, and the new faction can come in different flavors. The one is just an addition, meaning the expeditionary forces from the United States. I mean, that will be kind of the same gameplay. But I mean, if you would be able to play the Luftwaffe, you would have many new subsystems. But yeah, as an example, at the moment, I don't know which one we will choose, so I cannot promise anything. But just to explain, if you play and build
Right.
a Luftwaffe airfield, I mean, you have to defend it really also on the ground. Because partisans can come up and shoot your planes up, blow it up, and this is kind of a completely new gameplay, and I would really love to do that. But also here, this needs to be done properly. I don't want to do it the half baked way,
Right.
because then elsewise I feel like, okay, let's do just the other one, and that's good as well. Just with the U.S. Air Force. Yeah, but if I could, I would love to work on that game for the next few years, to be honest. At the Luftwaffe, I also want to do like a Finnish scenarios where you can need to build an airfield in the cold, and I want to get a canal. I mean Henderson Field. I mean I'm waiting to give you the
And,
opportunity to
oh
build that.
man.
There's so many different places on Earth I want to. But I mean because then the game is kind of a gigantic
If
monster, and obviously
if
and
you
honestly I don't
do the
have the
Cactus
budget to do
Airport,
that.
you need to let me know.
Now I
Oh
was
man.
talking. Sorry, I
I
did
was
not
saying
hear
if
you.
you,
You need to repeat, please.
no, sorry. I was saying if you do the Cactus Air Force at Henderson Field, you please let me know.
Yeah,
That would be so cool.
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, flying tigers in China. I mean, why we imagine building an airfield there, and then I mean, yeah. Also, we were always joking. The Italian Air Force, the best-looking pilots, Dolce Vita, but they had wonderful, beautiful planes. By the way, you were talking about North Africa. That would be lovely as well. But hey, yeah.
Yeah.
First, we need to nail that one down. We are now focusing on what we have, and we are working at the moment at optimizing the game, and then we're planning the next major update. I don't know if we can squeeze in one this year, but for sure in the beginning of next year. And we are focusing on making the game easier, better, and yes, and again give you a reason to play it again, and make it gradually a bit more harder, so you can really master it. I mean, it's already a lot of gameplay in it, but I mean it's absolutely not an unfinished project.
I mean, but I love the model, and I know a lot of Steam's games do that, where you guys, I mean, y'all are doing an MVP model essentially. You're deploying a product, and then with y'all's regular updates. I mean, I love that because it allows us to get an early insight of, hey, where's this game going? It's, I mean, I love it because the potential on this. To your point, I didn't even think about, essentially, it doesn't have to be Battle of Britain, but you're absolutely like, that's so exciting that you guys eventually, maybe in 4 or 5 years, pivoting to other DLC or uh,
Well,
scenarios or theaters of war and doing
I mean,
that.
the honest answer is hopefully we can. I mean, we need to
Yeah.
pay somehow for it. To be honest, I mean, we had a good start, but also you have to know it's super. I mean, I don't need to tell you, writing books is most likely also super hard. But as
It
I
takes
said,
time.
it takes time and costs money, and same goes for game development. And I mean, I'm so happy for all the new games that come out. but I mean competition is brutal. I mean it's
Yeah.
very very hard to sustain a good income to support such a team. We do our best, and we are not blaming anybody. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, getting the budget to go there will be very very hard. I mean, you ask me what I'm like most excited. I mean, I'm following a dream here, but I mean, most likely I cannot fund the game I originally wanted to make because yeah, I'm lacking the resources. But yeah, the ideas are endless, and the things that are on the roadmap they are super super exciting. Yeah, and we have a wonderful community. I mean, getting the feedback from the guys, not only on everybody who shows up on Sunday, but also in the feedback tool on the Steam forums. It's insane. I mean, Connor, we parsed over now I guess over 3,000 feedbacks. So
Wow.
it's really really cool, and that really gives us a lot of good vibes and a lot of good energy to continue. Okay, it was
Yeah, you
fascinating
guys aren't resting on
interview.
your laurels.
Sorry, pardon me, I was too fast. I did not hear you.
You're good, man. I said y'all are definitely not resting on your laurels. I mean,
Oh
that's
no,
great.
pardon me. Oh no, no, we're not. We're not. We're fighting hard to make a great and a big game. And yeah, life as an indie game studio is always hard. I mean, failure is always around the corner. That was always, and it will always be like that. But we really, really, as an example, I mean, the payback we get from you guys having that much fun is just it's brilliant. I mean, imagine that now over 38,000 people played Ground of Aces, way over 30,000, and the median gameplay is like over 4.5 hours. So, I mean, thousands of people literally played more than 100 hours. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know why are you doing that? I mean, I know why I'm doing that, but I never thought that there are so many other people who love to do that.
I mean that goes to show you. I mean, and this is what I said. Like the game is it's tapping into a community of people and a genre of, or style of play that isn't really out there. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know if you ever played U-Boat on
No,
Steam
but we have
games.
many
You
community
like
members who played. I mean, Protosh and Luca, are you still with us? Because he plays a lot of U-Boat. I know.
yeah. I mean, it's to that point. I mean, you're tapping into a genre and style of play that not it's not out there. You don't see. I mean, you're not seeing a 4A gamer a game team make that, and I think that's the big deal. That's what's great about Steam. You guys are tapping into stuff that people are willing to take the risk on, even though there's a desire among the community.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's also possible to connect. And that's why I love such interviews, by the way. And we need to find another reason to talk again. We maybe should do a topic and then nerd around
Absolutely.
one topic just about World War II. But I bet because I think there is so much in it connecting to yeah, to people who aren't interested in the same topic, and like-minded people that really want to kind of recreate, and what you said, want to give players the feeling of how it was to kind of plan and build up such an airfield. That's for me fascinating. Yeah. I have one closing question to you. I really want to hear your answer, and then I think we call it a day for today because we are already, Connor. I told you we do 1 hour, and we are already on almost 1.5 hour. It was really, really, really cool, and as I said, I want to do it again for everybody who is listening. We are also linking to Connor's books, and we will give away one freebie. So you can read it, and hopefully you buy and read Connor's book as I will do at the holiday season. Thank you very much, Connor. But let me ask you the last question. So, I mean, you are making art, you're writing, and so what was the most rewarding moment so far for you in the work as an author? Because I think you spent so
Ooh, I
much
like
time
that
doing
question.
it. But what was the one
Yeah,
thing?
and this is kind of why I really like what you guys are doing. So I started as an indie writer. for the first 4 years of writing, I was an independent author, so I wasn't uh, to that end, like I'm not. I wasn't doing this because I'm going to sell 100 copies and make a killing. For me, what I think what's most exciting has been since day one is there's an audience out there that is interested in what I'm creating, similar to Ground of Aces. Like you guys are catering to an audience that really enjoys what you guys are doing. To me, that is my ultimate, like that's what makes me excited about writing these stories. Like there's people that actually are like, wow, that's a really neat take on the Battle of Britain or the Dieppe raid or what happened in French West Africa or the U-boats with Wolves of Biscay. I mean, for me, it's just being able to cater to an audience that actually enjoys my reading. That's or enjoys my writing. That's the ultimate reward.
Cool. And do you get feedback from people? I mean, you don't get people any more feedback from people that were serving in World War II. I guess that's over now.
I don't get that. I do get a lot of I get a lot of good reviews. It was really interesting when I first wrote Jubilee because it was my first book. A lot of my reviews were all like, "Great book, but oh, the formatting is terrible." Because when you publish on Amazon, you got to do it a certain formatting way. And I was like, "Dang it, I got to figure that out." But all the feedback I've gotten over the years has been fantastic regarding the actual storytelling and just what I've gone through. And it's been great because I got a lot of, I got a very tight knit military community that I work with, and it's always great to hear from them saying, "Hey, love this, uh, maybe sharpen up X." So I'm always, for me, I like taking feedback. I don't it doesn't bother me if I get a negative feedback because to me that just means okay, clearly there's something wrong with my storytelling that needs to be improved, and it's something I can improve on in the next book. So that's kind of how I've always viewed it, and it's uh it's been pretty helpful and it's been pretty rewarding as a result.
Very good to hear. And really, from my side, you nailed it in the axis curve. I mean, this feeling as this rookie pilot takes off and has his first flight. I don't want to say more. It's brilliant written, and I really love it. Very cool. So go and read it, community. If you have subscribed to our newsletter, you get a link. Thank you very much, Conor. It was really, really a pleasure. It was very wonderful. You want to add something?
I just wanted to say, whoever asked that big wing question, that was an awesome question, and I appreciate it.
Yes, it was. Since you are not in the chat, it was SPK Hunter, first time chatter, by the way. I never saw this gentleman. We had many great people in the community asking questions. I mean, for them, I guess it's hard to prepare for such a stream. But I tell you, if you want to, if we do a nerd session around one topic, the Battle of Britain or one aspect, we get a lot of questions from folks, or
Oh, I
we
would love
will
to do
got a
that.
lot of questions. I mean, let's give them 10 seconds to ask another great question. We can add one if you want to. So if someone else has a question for Connor or for me, yeah, just drop it in the chat. And as was I just tell you, Connor, if you love the history about Rome and the Roman Empire, on Thursday, I should not promote games from other big from big AAA publishers, but Ubisoft published Anno 117. Did you see that?
Yes, I have.
Oh
I need
yeah,
to go look at that.
it's very good. I played
Yeah, it's really
yesterday
yeah.
too much
They
of
know how to
Anno.
get me. Yeah, if it says World War II or the Roman Empire, I'm just like, take my money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there was this other indie game I can also recommend that came out. Let me check. What was that? I would say. It's not available on my Mac. Pompeii: The Legacy.
I
It's on.
saw that.
You saw that? Yeah, you can play that
I
as well. I love it, by the way. It's really good. I mean, it's an indie team. I really love how he has done that, and it has another pace, another. Well, yeah, it's not like Ono, but I really, really love it.
I've been looking at a game. I haven't gotten it yet because I haven't had time because I've been playing yours. But it's Roman Triumph. I've been looking at that. It's kind of a mix of mythology and base building. But
Roman Triumph.
yeah, I haven't played it yet, so but I'll let you know.
Oh yeah, cool. Roman Triumph
It's early
Survival
release,
City
so
Builder. Ah, I see. Okay. Ah, cool. Oh, that has great brittle battle scenes, huh?
looks like it. Yeah, so I don't know. I'll let you know.
Cool. Okay, there is no other questions, so I guess we call it a day. Thank you very much, Connor, for joining.
Oh, my pleasure.
Uh, uh,
And
uh,
looking forward to
hopefully,
talking to you guys in the future.
yeah, hopefully we talk soon. So for everybody in the community, we send out the link in the news letter, as I said. And thank you very much, Connor. Talk to you